Lesson 17, I see no neutral things. This idea is another step in the direction of identifying cause and effect as it really operates in the world. You see no neutral things because you have no neutral thoughts. It is always the thought that comes first, despite the temptation to believe that it is the other way around. This is not the way the world thinks, but you must learn that it is the way you think. If it were not so, perception would have no cause and would itself be the cause of reality. In view of its highly variable nature, this is hardly likely. In applying today's idea, say to yourself with eyes open, I see no neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. Then look about you, resting your glance on each thing you note long enough to say, I do not see a neutral because my thoughts about are not neutral. For example, you might say, I do not see a neutral wall because my thoughts about walls are not neutral. I do not see a neutral body because my thoughts about bodies are not neutral. As usual, it is essential to make no distinctions between what you believe to be animate or inanimate, pleasant or unpleasant. Regardless of what you may believe, you do not see anything that is really alive or really joyous. That is because you are unaware as yet of any thought that is really true and therefore really happy. 3 or 4 specific practice periods are recommended, and no less than 3 are required for maximal benefit, even if you experience resistance. However, if you do, the length of the practice period may be reduced to less than a minute or so. That is otherwise recommended. Sorry. Reduced to less than a minute or so, that is otherwise recommended. So, same as always, if it's causing a lot of discomfort, take a break. I see no neutral things. I see no I see no neutral bodies. How about that one? Because my thoughts about bodies are not neutral. That's kind of an easy one to think about, right? We have a lot of thoughts about different bodies, different, what's good, what's bad. We don't have neutral thoughts, Beyond our thinking mind, there is that space of observation and acceptance. But the Course is saying here, this is another step in the direction of identifying cause and effect as it really operates in the world. And I think that's an important part here. You see no neutral things because you have no neutral thoughts. It is always the thought that comes first, despite the temptation to believe that is the other way around. So you don't see something and then have a thought about it. You have a thought about it and then you see something. I know you might not believe that, but give it a go. For example, it's so silly. It's a silly example, but I love to use real life examples because this is very practical. Like it sounds very metaphysical. It sounds really big and lofty and all these ideas, but the Course claims to be practical. It wants to be practical. It wants to be applicable. You want to be able to infuse it into your life. So, and I talk about my relationship a lot with my husband because we're mirroring for each other so much. And he had said he wasn't sure we should get dinner from this one restaurant. And I knew that our kids were really going to like it. And it was like, I just felt like it was a healthier option. And I wanted them to have it because they're really busy and blah, 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 all these things. So he thought it wasn't a good idea. And so he didn't say that, but he was just having all these thoughts about how he didn't want to drive over there and how it was going to be late. And he was just kind of going on. Okay. He didn't have any neutral thoughts about the situation. Well, as we're eating the food, he realizes he's like, he goes, my dinner isn't any good. Like they put too much rice or whatever. It's like a Asian fusion thing. But he created that scenario for himself because he was having all of these thoughts first about how it wasn't the right move. And it's such a like really little example, but it happens a lot in our lives. Like if you have this expectation or if you have this thought that the conversation is going to be difficult, it's going to be difficult. If you go into the thought thinking, I'm going to have all of the information I need, I'm going to know exactly what to say and when to say it. I am totally guided by the divine. I have all of, the skills that are required. If you're going in with that thought, that sequence of thoughts, then the outcome is going to be very different than going into it with thoughts that are negatively charged. So it's showing us that cause and effect. Cause happens at the level of thought first. We are not at the effects of the world. We are creating the world that we see. We see that on a very collective scale. The things that we do not like have to do with our collective subscription to negative fear-based thought. Okay, and that's why we become very powerful. The Course goes on to talk about how we are ministers. We are the ministers of God. And so we all have a ministry. We all have people that are going to hear about love, about the truth of love through us by maybe our words, maybe our action, maybe our whatever it is. I think it's important to remember that if we want to change the world, we change ourselves. Okay? I see no neutral things. Happy practicing lesson 17, and I will see you soon. Okay, here we are. Namaste. Lesson 18. I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my seeing. The idea for today is another step in learning that the thoughts which give rise to what you see are never neutral or unimportant. It also emphasizes the idea that minds are joined, which will be given increasing stress later on. Today's idea does not refer to what you see as much as to how you see it. Therefore, the exercises for today emphasize this aspect of your perception. The 3 or 4 practice periods which are recommended should be done as follows. Look about you, selecting subjects for the application of the idea for today as randomly as possible, and keeping your eyes on each one long enough to say, I am not alone in experiencing the effects of how I see. Conclude each practice period by repeating the more general statement, I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my seeing. A minute or so, or even less, will be sufficient for each practice period. So again, it's so powerful that, in realizing our unity and realizing our connection, that we are not alone. We are experiencing the effects of our thoughts together. And that's why it's so powerful to up-level our thinking and to nurture and to heal at the level of thought, because then we give those experiences to others. People feel safe around you. They don't necessarily remember, you've heard this before, what you say, they remember how they feel when they left you. So if you walk into a room, a conversation, and you're just the light of the world and you're just at peace and it's all good, you're there to enjoy the other humans there. You're going to be more magnetic. People are going to want to be, because you're not alone in experiencing that. They want to experience that too. But if you walk into a room and you're stressed and you're blah, 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 unless somebody's really honed in their own center, they're going to feel the effects of that. So this is really the beginning of the Course teaching us, how really potent and powerful it is when we embark on this journey of healing at the level of mind, healing at the level of thought. So again, in your practicing, it's like, I'm not alone in experiencing the effects about how I see war in the Middle East. I'm not alone in that. I'm not alone. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of how I see homelessness down the street. I'm not alone in that. Um, it's interesting how each lesson is starting to build, isn't it, on each other? I'm trusting you're starting to see that. Let's just sit with number 18 today and know that you're not alone in the effects of your experience and the things that you see. Namaste.